Hi, I'm Amy Robinson. I practice employment law at Jordan Ramus, and I'm here to talk to you about Oregon's mandatory sick leave law and some of the rules and ways it might apply to your business. So Oregon adopted a new mandatory sick leave law that goes into effect in January of 2016. It requires that employees accrue 1 hour for every 30 hours worked of sick leave time that they're able to use for certain purposes, up to a maximum of 40 hours in the year. For employers of 10 or more, this leave must be paid. If you're under 10 employees, it's unpaid time. For businesses in cities of 500,000 or more, the threshold is a 6-employee threshold. And right now, that's only Portland. So if an employer is in Portland and has 6 or more employees, this time must be paid. If they have less than 6 employees, the time need not be paid but must be provided to the employee. It's important that folks understand that this leave can be used for things that aren't necessarily always associated with the concept of sick leave. For example, routine appointments, public health emergencies, or some of the other leaves that may be provided under the law, such as domestic violence or bereavement. We also get questions about what if I use a paid time off policy or a PTO policy. Lots of employers are using paid time off policies these days, which essentially pools vacation and sick leave into one source that employees can tap into when they need time off for any purpose. The paid time off policy may be sufficient if it meets, again, the same rules that the sick leave law requires. It must be as generous with the same terms. There also is an alternative to using the traditional accrual method of 1 hour for every 30 worked. The rules do permit an employer to adopt a front-loading system where the employee is credited with the entire amount of leave that they would earn in the year at the beginning of the year, typically January 1st or their anniversary date, depending on what your policy provides. And that leave then is available for them to use. It is also permissible for the employer to adopt different methods for different classes of employees. For example, your employees who maybe have certain tenure with your company or who work in certain exempt positions may have a front-loading program where your employees who are hourly or who have less experience with your company would still be on an accrual system. Employers must allow this sick leave to be used for purposes that may go beyond what is traditionally thought of as sick leave. This would include absences already covered by the Oregon Family Leave Act. That would be in the event of a birth or the placement of a child for adoption, the event of a family illness that requires the employee to be there to attend to the family member, or the death of a family member where bereavement is needed. It would also apply to absences protected by the Oregon Domestic Violence Leave Act. In addition, it applies to an office or school closure necessitated by a public health emergency. Although the law requires that 40 hours be carried over from year to year, it does not require that accrued leave be cashed out at termination. It does also require, however, that in the event an employee is rehired within 180 days, that the amount of their previously accrued leave be credited back to them immediately on rehire and available for use. So what do employers need to do now? First and foremost, familiarize yourself with what the law requires of you. Second of all, there is a requirement to provide notice to employees of these leave protections. You can do this one of two ways. The Bureau of Oregon Labor and Industries, or BOLI as we call it, has a template notice available on its website, or you can provide a copy of your own policy that's in compliance. Either of those will suffice. Additionally, you need to post the required notice of this leave protection at your worksite. Again, BOLI has this available on their website. Finally, you're required to provide employees with notice of the amount of accrued leave they have on no less than a quarterly basis. Most employers are doing this by providing the accrual amount on the pay stub, and that is sufficient. So what else might you consider? Well, of course, we've talked about handbooks and policies and the importance of making sure those are up to date. But in addition to that, we strongly recommend you consider training so that your supervisors and other folks who may be administering these attendance or managing absences are aware of these protections and able to ensure you're in compliance. I think that's a great way to avoid any of the issues lingering in some of these leave protections. Thanks so much for watching this. I hope it's been helpful to you. Of course, if you have questions or if you find yourself needing some guidance with complying with this leave law, feel free to reach out. I can be reached at my phone or my email, and I'd love to hear from you.